everybody. Hello. Hi. Well, so overpopulation and our lifestyles have led to a number of serious challenges. So hear it out. Water scarcity and water pollution, loss of biodiversity, species extinction, deforestation, ocean plastic infestation, pollution, waste overload, and climate change and global warming. Particularly today, we're going to talk about ambient air pollution. So if this is not freaking you out, I don't know what is actually. Yet, we're talking about protecting the environment. We're past that. Planet is under attack. We're no longer in the need of protecting it. We need to defend it. So let me introduce you to our panelists today. Mrs. Atanaska Nikolova, she's the Deputy Minister of Environment and Water here in Bulgaria. Welcome. Mrs. Nikolova has dedicated her life to environment protection and sustainability. Her experience is in the non-governmental, local, and governmental sectors. She has massive experience of different ways in innovating in these topics. In Bulgaria, she's the woman in charge of policies in the field of environment, climate change, and ambient air quality. Welcome. Yes. Our second panelist is Dr. Ismo Kauppinen. He's an angel investor, an entrepreneur, part-time rock star. Welcome. So this man is on a mission to reduce air pollution. His company, Gasera, develops measuring tools for air quality, or lack of, should I say. So Ismo is tackling issues concerning millions of people. I come from healthcare, so I cannot refrain myself from reminding you that 350 million people suffer from asthma, 110 million people suffer from COPD. That's about like 500 million people in total suffering from respiratory complications, and 75% of which exacerbations are due to pollution related factors. That's also $225 billion cost to society. So I'm going to start with you, Atanaska. Can you tell us briefly what is your government currently doing to tackle those issues and to defend the planet? How is your work impacted by European regulations as well?
Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for putting the climate change and environmental quality in the agenda of the Webit. It's really very important signal to all the society that the topic is really very high on the agenda, not only of our agenda, of the politicians, but on the business agenda, on the agenda of each citizen. Not by chance, just a few days ago, at the meeting in the Romanian city of Sibiu, the European leaders they put the climate change among the 3 priorities of the agenda of the European Union. Climate change is already affecting all areas of life, including a wide range of economic sector. And if we not manage it now, if we not manage it well on a global scale, the global warming will significantly impact global human health and safety, our development, our economy, biodiversity, and not only, but it could cause migration and social fragility and conflicts. In other words, this global problem affects all of us, you, me, our life, our future. As you mentioned, actually, global climate change is a global problem, and the overcoming of this problem requires actions at all levels, by government, by business, and each and every one of us. Recognizing that climate change represents an urgent threat to society and the planet, the Paris Agreement became a milestone in our way forward climate neutral society. As a world leader and fight against the climate change, the EU and its member states submitted one of the most ambitious contributions for the time frame of 2020-2030. We oblige ourselves to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions by at least 40%, increase the share of renewable energy to at least 32%, and achieving an energy efficiency improvement of at least 32.5%. Yet, in order to achieve the goals of the Paris Agreement, these actions should be taken not only by European countries, but on a global scale. Eurostat estimates that in 2018, carbon dioxide emissions from fossil fuel combustion significantly decreased by 2.5% in the European Union compared with the previous year. And I'm happy to share that after Portugal, Bulgaria is marking the largest falls in carbon dioxide emissions with 8.1%. And this achievement is because of our policy, legislation, and actions taken not only by politicians, by the business too.
Thank you. So would you share with us some concrete measures that your government has taken in this direction?
Surely, it's actually not easy and not fast. To achieve real significant improvement in a climate, especially it requires a period of time, a lot of efforts, not only by the Ministry of Environment, but by industry, mainly energy sector, and of course, it requires the business. One of the most important, actually, actions which we took is to ensure partnership and cooperation. We established a council with representatives not only by the government, national one, local, but representing the scientific community, business associations, and of course non-governmental organizations. And this council is actually participating in the policy making, in the reporting of the measures, and we are actually together work on establishment of the main priority of the country.
Thank you. So actually this is wonderful because we have a government official here and we also have a clean tech CEO, and these are two very different approaches on how to tackle the problem. And I'd love to know, Ismo, it's actually such a lonely journey to be an entrepreneur already. How did you decide to be an entrepreneur in clean tech? It's one of the hardest area to be innovating. Can you tell us how you decided to do that?
Yes, okay. First of all, thanks for this opportunity, and I also thank Webit for putting this agenda into the topic. So my story, as you mentioned, when my mother was, when I was 4 years old, my mother asked me that, what are you going to do when you grow up? So I immediately answered that I'm going to be a rock star, or I'm going to follow my father's footsteps. So I tried to be a rock star and wasn't successful enough. So I also went studying physics, and in that sense I followed my father's footsteps. And by doing that, our company actually, it is a life work of my father. He's been a professor of physics, and he did some instrumentation to measure molecules first for scientific purposes, but then he came up with an idea that why don't we try to miniaturize this technology so that someday we could give the technology to everybody and save people's lives. And he's been very passionate on developing the technology, but not really good on commercializing that. So at some point I realized that I'm not going to be a rock star, so why don't I do that commercialization? And that's how I got into this clean tech business. Since this technology, what we are doing, it is tackling the measurement needs of these VOCs, you know, these kind of air pollutants that are kind of the newcomers in that sense that they are very hard to measure. So it's very hard to put legislation if you don't have instrumentation and so forth. So that's the field that I'm fighting in.
Well, in my opinion, anyone going into clean tech is a rock star. So thank you for doing it. It was very interesting. I was reading about your company earlier, and I saw you got like Horizon 2020 funding. So for those who don't know about this, it's a European Commission funding mechanism. So does that mean that the actual, like the regular route to found like a startup doesn't apply for clean tech companies? Does that mean that the funding path is not there yet to support any company that has an ambition in the environment?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's kind of twofold. When it is high technology, then you can apply funding from European Commission, and we got the funding actually for, it's more or less worker safety, but actually it is air quality in that sense, but it was for a project to measure these shipping containers where the customs officials, can they go in or not, so that you know, it's not dangerous for them. And what we found out is that our technology is very suitable for that market, but the market is not there yet because of missing legislation. So, but in the end, we could develop our core instrumentation, and later on, trying to increase our sales with the instruments. I've been looking into VC, venture capital, and I have to admit that I found out last year I was doing a lot of this fundraising, and when talking to VCs, I really had to change a little bit of our angle in pitching, because clean tech is considered lower value, so getting a good valuation for a company, I'd have to bring in some security or medical applications to boost the value, and in that sense, it is a little bit hard to get funding, or harder to get funding in the clean tech sector. So, but I also found another way that if you start adding these buzzwords like artificial intelligence or blockchain or something like that, then again you can boost the value of clean tech.
My last question for you. I find it very interesting. I come from healthcare, and in healthcare, when you want to innovate in digital health, regulations are in your way, and it's making it harder for you. And some people here know it really well. So, we had this brief conversation earlier. In fact, it seems like you benefit from regulations and policies that are imposed onto corporations. Can you say a word a little bit on this? How you benefit from these policies?
Yeah, it's the whole climate thing. It's so complicated, and in terms of technology of measuring, that's that first of all that solves the root cause, and then we can point the reason. And there's been legislation on these criteria pollutants, but if you go out of that and you start to bring in new technologies, you actually need to fill in this whole cycle where scientists they recognize, like let's say a problem that you use biofuels and you start suddenly emitting formaldehyde, so that they can understand which components are polluting, and that's causing cancer. So then these scientific communities need to discuss with regulators like politicians. And then when politicians start putting regulations in place, but then again, you come to the vicious circle that if you don't have the measuring technology, it's very hard. So everybody needs to work together in this cycle. But whenever there is legislation, then the market is bigger, and then it justifies for developing more. Like, for instance, there's a special application, which is this stack gas monitoring. You have to monitor gases that are coming out of the stack, and that's a 1 billion market alone, and it's very heavily regulated.
Thank you. So, Mrs. Nikolova, last year I read that there was a forum for innovation for the quality of air, and that was led by your minister under your leadership. So it's interesting to actually see the two of you work on very, very similar topics, and we have, again, a government official, a startup guy. So we have policies and tech, innovation, and regulation, just here sitting in these two chairs. So basically the framework and the action. So how do you think that there should be a collaboration between the public and private sector? Is there a collaboration? Is there competition? Do you guys ignore each other or do you help each other? How does that work in your opinion?
For sure, if we want to be successful, we should work together. Actually, you mentioned our initiative on Eco-Innovation Forum. Actually, it was an attempt to in that direction to promote the business, innovative business, because it is clear. It's the truth is, if we're speaking about the climate and climate change, the climate change is fact, and an action is needed. Unfortunately, the same is true for the air quality. We are in order to improve the air quality, in order to improve the quality of life of our society, we need to act. Unfortunately, the conventional means are not good enough. So the change is not so definite, not so fast. We do believe that research, innovation, science, new technologies are the decide engine good tool that can accelerate the change and can make a real effect on our environment, on our quality of life. And in order to achieve this change, we need to work together with the business, with science, with innovators, to promote the eco-innovations and to assist in order to be able to make the effect on our life.
Thank you. So both of you, is there a few words before we take some questions from the audience? Is there a few words you would want to say to inspire people to take action to defend our planet? Do you want to start?
Yeah, okay. Obviously, what everybody can do by individuals are things like, taking the bicycle instead of car. However, these have been discussed a lot in the media and everywhere, but what I would like to embrace is more or less this cooperation, so that people would start thinking, how could we collaborate so that, to tackle this big issue? And that's also in a higher level of companies, businesses, and legislators, and everywhere. But everybody can do that. Start thinking, how can we collaborate? Because 1 + 1 is more than 2.
Because we're on a Webit forum, I would like to address entrepreneurs, and let's think about the climate change, about the environmental problems, air pollution, not like problems, but like chances, opportunities for each of us to make changes, to like a challenge and opportunity to develop new ideas, new business, and really to achieve the change, the required change. And probably the second one, I would like to quote the Socrates, who said that the secret of change is to focus all of our energy, not on fighting the old, but on building the new. So let's build the new together.
Fantastic. So we have a few minutes. Yes. So we have a few minutes, and I would love this to be a dialogue with the audience. So it's very hard to see you because of these lights, but who in the audience is actually doing something in clean tech? Do we have any startup, any NGO people, any activists here in the room? Oh, there's a few. So, well, if you had a question or a comment or something, I would like you in priority to actually say something or maybe share with us what you're doing, if you wanted. I'm not sure I could see really well, so a hand somewhere there. Yeah. No? No one? All right. All right, so well, if anyone else wants to ask a question to our panelists, we still have a little time. Again, I can't see you, so just stand up and speak. Yes, Kat.
Thank you. As I mentioned, we have really very high and ambitious goals concerning the reduction of the CO2 emissions and using renewable energy and energy efficiency. We are working hard in Bulgaria, not only on a national level, but on a local level too, to promote the renewable energy and electrical transport, sustainable transport, especially for public purposes. We, as the Ministry of Environment, has a special program for promotion the usage of electrical vehicle by public authorities. So we are providing a special grant to the institutions in order to buy electrical vehicles and to establish infrastructure to use it. The similar program we have on a regional and local level. So we are trying really to promote and to educate, of course, because everything is again. We should work with the people to raise the awareness concerning the change of their lifestyle.
Well, speaking of which, I'm taking the chance I'm meeting with you and I have an opportunity to ask you, what is Bulgaria doing with single-use plastic? Is there any measure that your country is going to take for this? Yes. And anyone here, please. Well, I have an opportunity to say it every day to everybody, and this guy is always annoyed with me. Please think twice before using plastic cups and all these things. So I would love to hear what your country is doing about this.
Again, I will refer to European legislation because environmental legislation more or less on a community level. So probably you know that we have already new directive which is exactly directed to reducing the single-use of single-use plastic. So what we are doing in Bulgaria with I can share with you just very simple example what we are doing in the Ministry of Environment. We are not using any plastic bottles in the building of our ministry. So there's no plastic at all in our ministry. And we are trying to promote in other institutions and ministerials, including the parliament, in the environmental commission of of the parliament. You are, if you are going to their meetings, you can see that members of the parliament drink their coffee in eatable cups. So no plastic in a environmental commission, no plastic in a environmental ministry in Bulgaria. It's just a very simple example. Of course, there is very complicated regulation, laws and ordinance concerning the reduction and regulation of the usage of the plastic.
Well, thank you both for your interventions. Thank you for the work you're doing with the ministry. Thank you for the amazing fights that you're conducting every day. Thank you, everybody. It was a great panel. Thank you, Bulgaria, for hosting us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.